Hey, so I did a thing this week. I was moving up in my Pilates practice. I do the Pilates reformer. And during the class at the next level, I was in a moment of feeling like, wow, I'm really proud of myself. This is a whole nother level. This is a piece of equipment that I've never used before. So I must be really progressing in my practice. And I remember thinking, my legs are the strongest part of my body. My abs, not so much. When they talk about core, I'm like, what core? So I'm doing the thing and I'm standing up and I'm balancing on one leg and I'm using my other foot on this other piece of equipment that I've never used before. And I mentioned to the instructor who was new, so I didn't know her style of teaching, I didn't know anything about her. I said, I've never used this before. Can you help me? And she set the piece of equipment for me, didn't give me any special instructions, kind of assumed that I would know what to do. And in the middle of an exercise, I felt like I needed to adjust my foot. So I went to move my foot while it was up in the air on the machine. And because I lifted my foot, it had a heavy spring, shot me back on my butt. Like I just kept falling backwards. It was surreal. It was a very big fall, very embarrassing fall, very painful fall. And I landed in the reformer next to me. If you do Pilates and you know what a reformer looks like, it's that big open pit where the straps are. My butt was on the floor. My legs were up in the air. I was mortified. So thankfully, by some miracle, this was the only catastrophe was my finger. So my finger, it's my ring finger of my right hand. I text with my hands. I write with my hands. I type on the computer with my hands. I use my hands to do my own hair and makeup every day. I use my hands to cook, to do anything, to drive. You don't realize until something is taken away from you how much you rely on that thing. I keep taking the splint off to wash my hands and I forget and I wash my hands how I normally would. I'm like, ow, 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 because I'm bending it further than I should. It's very bruised and swollen along with my ego. And, how does this relate to hair color? Why am I talking about this now? It just reminded me of the fact that we can be in the hairdressing industry, we can be a stylist for over 20 years, and we can be continuing to use techniques and information that we learned 20 years ago that we know deep down in our heart is not working for us, but we continue to do it because it's comfortable. I could have stayed at the lower level in Pilates for the next 10 years of my life. I was getting results. I feel like my arms are more toned. Here's another bruise from a calamity, but my arms are more toned. My legs feel really strong. I have more energy. I've gotten a lot of positive things from being in the first level. So I could have stayed there forever. The instructors never tell you when you're ready to go to the next level. You kind of have to figure it out on your own. And because the instructors don't tell you it's time to move up, sometimes you can move up prematurely, like I just did, and end up hurting yourself. So I could blame the instructor all day long and say, well, she knew that I was new at that piece of equipment. She should have, should have, should have, should have. I could should the situation to death. I can blame the instructor. I can blame the facility. I can blame the fact that the reformers are super close together and I shouldn't even be able to fall into my neighbor's reformer because they're crazy close together. There's a million ways that I can place blame. But the bottom line is I lifted my foot up when I shouldn't have and underestimated the power of the springs on a machine because of lack of education. I had an interesting conversation in my inner circle group. I have a program right now that's called Summer School. And it's kind of like extra credit for the program that they already belong to. And it's been wonderful. There's only 10 students in summer school. Every student every week has shown up, and it's a 10-week commitment. They have shown up live. They have shown up with great questions. They've done their homework. They've shown up with answers after their homework and more questions. And a conversation that I had with one of my students last night was, you really never know what you don't know until you learn something that new that you practice. And you're like, wow, I never knew that I could do that. But if you never look for new information and you never stretch yourself and never do anything different, sure, I could have, prevented this injury by not going to the next level. But now I know I'm not ready for that next level because the other exercises at that level were much more complicated than what I got hurt doing. And I probably would have hurt myself a lot more. I already have back issues. Thank you, the beauty industry, for having me stand for 40 years and doing damage to my back and my discs. And that's a whole other conversation of how you need to protect your body in this industry because nobody talks about that either. You go when something's broken. When this happens, you go to a doctor and you find out if it's broken or sprained and you get a splint. If your back starts to hurt you, you start going to a chiropractor and then you start going to a physical therapist and then you might need surgery. But my point is, we wait until everything's broken and we need stitches or surgery or something to fix us. When if we just took the time to seek out better information, we could have completely avoided the incident in the first place. So, how many ways in your life right now are you doing that where you're saying, I've always done cap highlights. My clients love them. I can get really super close to the scalp. It's so easy to just pull that crochet needle through the holes and give them an overall blonding look. And then you see all the trends right now are lived in and melts and, all of the things that you really can't get with a cap. I mean, I'm sure you could, but it really wouldn't be the best tool for the job. Then, there's new techniques, there's new tools, there's new hair color products. I just learned about a new product called Color Tricks from working with Gary Atkin, who's our sponsor for the podcast. Shout out, Gary. That, we can take a permanent color and make it behave as a demi so that we don't have to have 3 different lines of color in our dispensary. So there's always new, better, different ways. But if we stay in our little world with our blinders on and we just keep doing what we've always done, we're always going to get the same results. I attended a class yesterday. It was excellent. It was with Lauren Gartland from Inspiring Champions. She has an amazing energy, Lauren. She's been around for a long time. She brought me to tears the first time I ever saw her speak at the Art of Business in Philadelphia. She told her story about how many failures she had until she discovered, her coaching passion and, how much she has changed the industry. And it was about pricing and it was about setting goals. And the brave person on the call who allowed herself to be the example, her prices really got to me. I'm watching it and my heart hurt for her because she was doing, haircuts for $25. She was doing glazes on her ends for $10, I think. And the cost of the color is more than $10. And she admitted that she just randomly pulled these prices out of nowhere because she was a person who only thought that a haircut is worth $25. She thinks that a glaze couldn't possibly be more than $10 to just, put on this liquid on the ends and make it shine. So it really broke my heart to see that she's been 20 years in the industry doing this. And she had shared with the group that she's only making $600 a week after 20 years. I don't want that for you. I don't want that for anyone. And I especially don't want it for her. She was so brave to share her honest, answers with the group. And it easily could have been, I'm embarrassed. I don't want people to know. But if she never knew how far off her numbers were from where they should be, she would never make any changes. And she had a tiny little baby on her hip and she has this family to support. And it's just, we only know what we know. And if you don't ask, you don't look up to people. I learned 80% of what I teach right now. I learned from a mentor that I chose, that I resonated with. I looked at her life and I wanted my life to be like her life. I saw her on stage. I traveled all over the place following her and her then husband at every live event that they had. And every single time I came back, I was able to do things new, better, different. I was able to charge a higher rate. I learned how to specialize from her. That changed my life, giving up kids' haircuts and updos and blow dries and eyebrow waxing and all the things that it never brought me any joy. And I did them every day because I owned a salon and those were services that we offered. And I felt like I need to be able to know how to do all those things. And I should be able to offer all those things to my clients. Boy, was I wrong. My life completely changed when I leaned into the passion for me. That was hair color. every time a client came in for hair color, it just lit me up. I smiled from ear to ear. And I'm talking major corrective things that would make most people crap their pants, lit me up and still do. I look at a corrective color as a puzzle. I always loved jigsaw puzzles. Um, I don't like crossword puzzles because it makes me feel dumb. I don't know the answers to most of the things on crossword puzzles, but a jigsaw puzzle, for some reason, it must be the way my brain works, is a better challenge for me and helps me concentrate. So I look at corrective color as a puzzle that needs fixing. I look at the hair, and the first thing I say is, what can I keep out of this mess? Is there anything here that I can keep? For example, if the hair is Ronald McDonald, it became like, horrible orange, meaning to be brown. I mean, blonde. There were a brunette trying to go blonde and it missed the mark and it landed in that orange stage. A lot of people will look at that and say, oh my goodness, we have to take it all back to her natural immediately and we have to start over. But I don't look at it that way. I look at it and I say, wow, most of the heavy lifting has been done. She's already at orange. She started with, level 4 or level 3 hair, and she had to go through all of the, deep red and the lighter red and the red orange and the orange to the yellow orange where she is now. So 4 of those things have already happened. Why would I take her all the way back to her natural when that's all underneath anyway? I do a whole class in my program called What Lies Beneath, because we have to know what's underneath there. If the blanche is under there, putting, level 4 back on there didn't make the blanche go away. It just covered it up. It's still under there. The hair has still been compromised. So I look at it that way. Okay, it's already at orange and I want it to go further, but I didn't want the whole head to go further. So now I can select some of that blanche, place it in foils with a lightener with a very low volume developer, and take it the rest of the way to the finish line. Get it into that blonde zone. And then in between those foils, that's where I can take everything back down and get rid of that scary orange. But being reactive is something that I see a lot in our industry. It's like that, oh, we have to make this go away. This is so ugly. The client's feeling reactive and scared and upset, and they just want it to go away, and they'll do anything to make it go away. But really, in the end, she wanted to be a blonde. If she wanted to be a brunette, she never would have started the process in the first place. So if you have any nerves or anxiety around corrective color or formulation or foil placement or pricing or what else? Corrective color, chlorine in the hair, turning the hair green, somebody who has manic panic on their hair that you can't get out, anything to do with hair color, I am here to support you. That is what I do. That is my love and passion in this industry now. After owning a successful salon for over 36 years, training the next generation of hairstylists, I realized that I can only train so many people within my building. And it means a lot to me to reach many, many more hairstylists that are like the stylist yesterday who shared that she really didn't have the confidence to raise her prices because she didn't feel like she was a good colorist. She didn't have the confidence to raise her prices because she stayed in her own bubble and she didn't realize how expensive hair has gotten lately. The cost of supplies is astronomical. It's just crazy to stay the same when you know how much further you can go, but it's up to you. So stop asking the stylist next to you, because if she's not driving your dream car and living in your dream beach house and going on wonderful vacations, if she's still making the same amount of money as you, or maybe a little bit more, and she's not your person like my mentor was to me, if you don't absolutely look up to him or her, that person that you're leaning on for advice, stop doing it because it's not helping you. Listen to someone who's done it, who was able to move to the beach, who's able to work from anywhere in the world. I can bring my laptop and I can work from anywhere right now because I asked the questions, because I hired the mentors. I followed people who did it before me and learned how to get there better and faster than me scrambling to do it on my own. Me doing things on my own led to my injured finger and banged up my whole body. Me not asking that instructor, hey, can you give me some tips on this? I didn't want to be embarrassed. I didn't want to say I didn't know in front of the class. I'm like, how hard can it be? Well, you hear how that turned out. So stop being afraid to ask questions. Stop being afraid to admit that you just don't get it. A lot of people still ask questions about glazing and toning, and the answers are so simple. This week in summer school, we did a deep dive in my Let's Go Glazy Crazy program, which is one of my favorites. You can purchase that alone by itself. You don't have to join the membership. You can just purchase Glazy Crazy. It is one of my, I think, best trainings on Shades EQ, Redken Shades EQ, because I go through each letter, what it means, when to use it, and why. When to use clear, when not to use clear. How to apply on how to formulate for wet hair, how to formulate for dry hair, how to use it for low lights, how to use it for a global application, how to use it to cover gray. A lot of people say it doesn't cover gray. It covered my gray for 10 years. I stopped covering it because I'm trying to let the silver come in and embrace it, but it covered it for 10 years. So I am here to tell you there are new, better, different ways of doing hair color. And I hope that you'll reach out and you'll become part of my world and let me share with you all my love and passion for hair color. If you're listening to this on the podcast, you could be somebody who's not in my world. If you're listening to this through my inner circle, you're already in my world, and I love you and I thank you for being part of my world. So please reach out. My website is expertcolorsolutions.com. I am on YouTube. I am on podcasts, anywhere you listen to podcasts. And I also have a private membership for when you are ready to level up and become the colorist that you've always wanted to be. And I know you're capable of being. See you on the next one.